What's up, guys? Back here with another week of the Football Apex podcast. Here with Elliot.
How's it going?
And so this week, a shocker. Bayern Munich drew 3-3 with Leipzig. And I mean, the biggest loser of this all is not Bayern Munich, but Man United, because they've got to play for their Champions League lives next Tuesday or Wednesday. And frankly speaking, from what I saw today, I don't think any team on earth would want to play either Leipzig or Bayern. But if you had to choose, Elliot, I think they'd rather play Bayern because that was some sloppy defending.
Yes, but nobody wants to play Bayern.
Well, that's true. I mean, if you had the choice, you would avoid them. But,
Yeah.
let's say you didn't say Bayern. Let's say it was just a random blank slate, and you saw defending like that. You would never associate it with Bayern. And so you think to yourself, I could score a goal.
And remember early in the podcast, I had said at the beginning, I was a little concerned with Bayern Munich because of the amount of goals they were conceding.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, they got slapped around by, I think it was Hoffenheim.
Hoffenheim, yeah.
4 goals in that game. They had a crazy game against Hertha Berlin. They conceded 3 in that game. They conceded 2 against Dortmund in the Super Cup. So in their first 4 or 5 games, they were conceding not types of goals, but the amount of goals that would be associated with the bottom of the league or the mid-table. To be honest, I did not like what I saw at all from Bayern. And if you can say anything about this match is this shows how good they are because they play like crap and they still win. We talked about a couple of weeks ago that they played badly against PSG and they still won the Champions League final. So I don't want to focus on it too much, but the reason they won was because of Thomas Muller. He was absolutely brilliant. Probably going to make into my top 3 performers of the week. Just a little caveat there, but Leipzig were excellent. And what struck me so much is the reply, because they get that first goal, then Bayern scores and scores again, and then literally 20 seconds later, Leipzig is going the other way and leveling the game. So it shows me this Leipzig team is a Champions League type team, and they're a team that's going to challenge Bayern in this Bundesliga. And by the way, this was the most fascinating, exciting match. That I don't think there'll be a better match this weekend or this week. I just think it was fantastic. Leipzig shows they're a real player in this game, and it's not so much the people who got on the score sheet. The ones who impressed me the most were the people who didn't. So I thought, help me out, Hidara. Do I have that right?
I think so.
Him and the one who scored this, I think it was the first.
Nkunku.
Yeah, those 2 were outstanding. And yes, it's easy to draw the example of, look what Ocampo did to Lewandowski. But that wasn't the most impressive thing. It was the way that Hadar kind of controlled the entire facet of the game and was able to really facilitate that goal to Kluivert. And then Nakulu was just amazing in his own right with beyond the scoring. And they were able to kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but they were playing with Bayern a little bit, and I think they probably should have won the game. But as far as the defending, as you brought up, I mean, Forsberg is wide open. You can't leave a guy that open on a set. Was it a set piece? I don't think it was a set piece, but no, it wasn't. But in that kind of situation, you're leaving someone. He'd never scored a header goal in his life. That's what I said. The announcer said. But at the same time, no one's going to miss from that angle when you have no one guarding him. He's just wide open. And Neuer, I did not think had a good day today. I thought he made mistakes all over the place. And Leipzig I think they were just brilliant. And there's not no other way to put it. And if you're a Leipzig, you got to feel good going to the Man United game because look, Man United rocked them that first time. But at the same time, there's no team in Europe this week that's going to feel more momentum and more confidence that they can get the job done than that Leipzig team. And I wouldn't want to play them at all because they played amazing. They got it to tie against Bayern, the best team in the world, and a team that I think is going to win the Champions League
Same.
And probably next year. Hans Flick has not lost a game yet, if I have that correct. So he
lost against Hoffenheim.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So only one game. He's only lost once, I think. So if you look at this team and what they were able to do against that team, how are Man United feel? And I know Man United, I'm just not, they don't have a great team. They have some nice players, and it's not like Bruno Fernandes can win the game single-handedly. And again, I like him, but I'm not as high on him as everybody else.
No.
So I just don't see a way that even individual brilliance can overtake a team like that who's playing so well. On the flip side, they can be so distraught by not getting a points that they lay an egg. But I would put my house on Leipzig just being an absolute monster in that game against Man United.
And what gets me is that Leipzig did this away to Bayern Munich, who I believe they're undefeated at home at least. Manchester United beat Leipzig 5-0. And honestly, that was shocking to me, almost as shocking as the Atlanta 5-0 loss to Liverpool, where it's like everyone wrote them off because of their name, and they didn't really give them a chance. And now that they see the performance in the second supposed leg of the group stages, they see the true value of Leipzig, or in that case, Atlanta, and now Leipzig. I feel like Manchester United has a away record. Now, here's the thing with Manchester United. They just came from behind in 5 consecutive away Premier League games to win. But those are Premier League games. This is not RB Leipzig, one of the Bundesliga title contenders. And so will they be able to do that in the Champions League for their lives next Wednesday, knowing well that the team on the other end is playing for the exact same thing? This is a knockout game. I don't care what anyone says. Just because it's in the group stage does not mean anything else. And for that matter, I honestly think that Leipzig's probably going to win 2-1. And that's being very generous to Manchester United.
I think that's very generous. I have a Man United fan who gets rather emotional when Manchester United are playing. He was done with football after West Ham scored today, and then he changed his total mind on that. Good guy and everything, but this is why I didn't say. I think they're gonna get boat raced. I really think Leipzig are just gonna light them up, and I found it so interesting that on the Champions League panel, everyone was saying Man United and PSG are going through. No one even gave Leipzig a mention. And I feel like they're going to use that as well. It's the whole thing. And I quite like Andrew Robertson. So every time I bring him, I don't want to make it sound like I don't like him. But he made one of those mistakes that it's going to be
running off Atletico Madrid.
England fans are not going to look at this, any of them. Even like Liverpool, Man United fans aren't going to even look at this. But from you and I are football fans as a whole. We know that you don't do that what he did. And I understand that he was set up by the reporter. But he could have just said, we'll see what happens. I mean, that's literally. So, like, stuff like that is like, you don't want to give RB Leipzig more bulletin board material because Nagelsmann's a great coach. I don't think he's the mentalist Simeone is. But as far as, like, everything that goes together in this sort of situation, it's just like you think that Leipzig did not see that everyone just picked against them? They're going to use that. They just performed against Bayern. They have players coming off the bench that would start for most teams. They have all the materials. They have the right mentality. They have a great coach. They defend well. I mean, let's just, for the argument's sake, what would Man United have to do to beat them? Because I'm trying to think of this, and I usually can, think quickly on my feet, and it has to be Rashford being amazing. That's the only way. And I don't think Bruno Fernandes at his best is even going to be good enough. And he's a great player. I view him differently than England does. And this is the funny thing. Most of Europe views him differently as well. Because you realize none of the big clubs outside of England are even a little bit interested. I struggle with that. But he's a great player, and he has those moments. And obviously, he's brilliant. I love what he does with the ball. So it's not against Bruno Fernandes, but he cannot be their best player when they play RB Leipzig. It has to be Rashford. Rashford did him the first time. He's the one who got things going. He's the one who is going to have to do it again. And so from the Man United perspective, it's just you have to find a way for Rashford to be the most effective possible way for them to do it. And he's not going to do it by himself. But if you look at Man United even against PSG, and I thought they dominated most of the match, PSG took the chances. And that's basically the headline of that. They had so many chances they missed. They could have won that game easily. And they let kind of PSG do what they want. And they cannot let RB Leipzig do what they want because this is the scary thing. With PSG, you have Mbappe, you have Neymar, you have the big hitters, right? The strikers, the forwards, the attacking players. The best players for Leipzig are the ones in the middle of the park. That's the problem. When you talk about Hadara, when you talk about
Nkunku.
Nkunku.
Forsberg, you could say when he drops deep, he becomes
Who's the other one? He's from the Austrian one with the ponytail.
Limer.
No. His name starts with an S.
Sabitzer.
Yeah, him. Look, he is so good, and he's one of these players like I call it like the Papu Gomez syndrome. By the time they're really good,
they're too old.
They're like too old. He's been so good consistently, and he has it in his bag to literally play games with Manchester United. And I'm not meaning football, like games within the game, that sort of thing. And look, the Man United's biggest thing is you have Rashford doing this thing. You have what's his name? You have Bruno Fernandes who does his thing. But when you have a guy like that who can control the game from the middle, they have the best midfielder. And if Man United is going to feed Rashford, they have to have an advantage in that area. Because what people don't realize is he has a defensive work rate as well. It's not all flashy stuff, which is why he consequently flies under the radar. Because you can see in my voice how excited I am. This is how much I love this team, and I love them last year. I love them this year, and I honestly think they're better without Timo Werner. Timo Werner distracted some of the key things that they were doing well, and you have a collection of strikers that they're using, and their top scorers are not their strikers, and I think that's a real weapon because they're capable. If you look at Poulsen, who would want to D that guy up? Like, I'm good. He's big, he's tall, he can hit in the air.
He's not finishing something.
He had a goal this year where he had a 6% chance of scoring from the angle. So and then you have Schlereth or whatever his name is, the new guy who they just brought in, who replaced Patrick Schick from last year. He hasn't really got it going yet, but he has that capability. So from Man United's perspective, it's a nightmare, and I would want to play this team. And even if it's not Man United, nobody would want to play this team right now. If you think about what they just did, they just but they got a point against Bayern Munich in a game they probably should have won. And I mean, they're just a scary team right now. And this is the thing I've always said. And I know I'm rambling at this point, but this is why the Bundesliga is superior to everyone else. You have a game like that where it's obviously this is about Leipzig being so amazing and other than Bayern not doing what they should have done, but they have those moments with Coleman and Mueller and all this stuff. And then you look in the game from last weekend again, Frankfurt, who I want to talk about a little bit, but Frankfurt and Union Berlin in that 3-3 crazy game too. This is just what the Bundesliga is, and I think Leipzig took advantage of those opportunities. And if Thomas Mueller is not wearing the Bayern jersey today, they may not score in this game.
And it shouldn't come to anyone's surprise that RB Leipzig will, in my opinion, probably advance this next week.
Yeah, I think they will too.
But another great Champions League game that's going to be played is Barcelona against Juventus.
Yeah.
Now, the one tale that people are misconstruing is Barcelona's loss today to Cadiz and Juventus' win over Torino. Now, if you watched both games, yes, both.
Yeah, well, hold on. They were awful against Torino.
Yeah, they were terrible.
They were look. I've been very kind to Ronaldo the last couple episodes. A few weeks ago, I said it was the best game ever played in Juventus shirt. And this is where the haters are going to come out and say that I don't like Ronaldo. He was terrible.
Yeah.
He was awful. He didn't have one shot on target. And look, and this might be the American in me. McKinney comes in the game, he changes everything. If he doesn't make that substitution, so I want to give Pillar a little credit here. McKinney changes the game when he comes in. And even in the second goal, you could see that they got that momentum back in the running. And look, I don't want to be too disrespectful towards Juventus. If Torino were any good at all, if they weren't complete rubbish, they would have won that game.
Not to mention, 2 crosses. I don't know, like.
It was horrendous defending. You talk about bad defending. The guy who scored the first goal, he's good. Everyone else can't seem to know what they're doing. They're out of position all the time. The first one I kind of get because if you notice on that goal, McKinney makes that run before the ball is coming in. So he's already ahead of the man. So even if the defense is pressing, he's going to get to that ball because of the run he's making. On the second goal, it just seemed like they let them through. And that's a derby. They haven't beaten Juventus in that game so long. And then last year they were 1-0 up against Juventus, and then Ronaldo scores in like the 89th or the 90th, whatever, something like that. And you see the same thing again. It's just like they're getting the points, but they're just not very good.
And I feel like because of the mass media and the coverage of Juventus and Ronaldo, maybe people aren't really understanding how bad Juventus really is. And when it will hit them, it'll be like an unrecoverable magnitude.
Yeah, and here's the other thing I want people to understand. And this is something I've struggled with people who look. I'm watching Juventus every week. I've seen every game Ronaldo's played at Juventus, right? And then there's people who love Ronaldo, and there's a lot to love about Cristiano Ronaldo. He's an amazing player. He's one of the greatest we've ever seen. But it's just kind of the narrative that's spewing that if it wasn't for Ronaldo, this, that, and the other thing. And here's the thing about that, and I agree and I disagree. This is the point. This is what I'm going to tell you here is factual. Dybala was the best player in Italy last year, without question. You want to throw Papu Gomez? Go ahead. You want to put Kiro Immobile in that? But they don't win that title without him. If Dybala doesn't exist in that team, Ronaldo scores 18 goals, not 33. Okay? So I want people to remember. And now, because he had a manager, you like him or not, that got the best out of Dybala. Sarri and Dybala worked really well. Pirlo and Dybala do not, because Pirlo doesn't understand how to use him. I'm not a coach, and I'm not suggesting that I know what I'm doing either, but you can't use him in the way he is. He's using him as like for example, like the Cavaliers. You're using him as like a Kevin Love, right? As someone who's not the main attraction, but still a valuable piece. You being a basketball fan, I bet you appreciate that. But he's using him as like a supporting cast and not a star. And Dybala, this is the crazy thing. If Dybala left, he would rip apart because this is the crazy thing. He's treated like a second-class citizen in Juventus. Not just this year, not before Ronaldo too. He's not treated as a player that is, and of course, and this is what I get annoyed with. Every time Juventus doesn't win, somehow it's always Dybala's fault. And Juventus fans are viewing this in the same way because they're also part of the reason he's not being treated well in this circumstance. And it's a completely frustrating idea with that. Okay, so Dybala was the man last year. Ronaldo was Dybala. You know, he was scoring a lot of goals, but it wasn't a great Ronaldo season. He wasn't even in my top 15 players last year. So then you flip it, and now Ronaldo has a manager who is heavily like. Here's the problem. Pirlo's logic is give Ronaldo the ball, and that's all I need to do. Yes, he made that sub today, and I'm being harsh on him, and he's one of my favorite players, but that's his logic. And from a tactical, strategic perspective, that's his logic. And when you have Dybala, you have Kulusevski, who's just incredible. You have Bentancur, who's really good, actually, too. Like the players, they have good players. It's just the way they're being so underutilized. Aaron Ramsey's not being featured enough, for example. And then there's other players. And then De Ligt is working his tail off, and he's not setting up this team to be successful. So this idea that without Ronaldo, with Ronaldo, that they're so much better, it's not. They're a little bit better. With Ronaldo, they're average. Without Ronaldo, they're below average. So you're not hitting to a place where you're like you're like a Inter or a Roma, where without certain players, you can still. Roma can perform without Dzeko. Inter have improving, at least last week, in a really good team. They can win without Lukaku. They're still relying on Lukaku, but there's a lot of teams where they can win out their star, and they go from average to superb. Where Juventus really goes from below average to average. When I mean average, I mean like with the situation, they're not going to finish below like 5th or something, but they're not a team that's real. And it's just I don't want to blame anyone particularly, but the board is so responsible for this. You don't give Pirlo a Juventus job. You give him a Fiorentina. He can work with stuff like that. You give him a Cagliari. You give him a Parma. I don't know what other jobs were available in the summer, but there are some jobs out there that he could have got. He could have got to the Torino job. And, I think he would have done a good job in those places, but he was given the big job without coaching one game in the previous he had the under 23 coach, didn't coach a game, went all the way up just because and the sad thing is he's probably going to get sacked this season. And that's unfair because if you look with Frank Lampard, they gave him leeway. They're not giving him any leeway at Juventus. So I'm not blaming Ronaldo specifically, and I'm not blaming – the whole operation is corrupt. And you can say the same about – go ahead.
You make a valid point. Frank Lampard has no Champions League aspirations, no expectations. But Cristiano Ronaldo came to Juventus to win the Champions League. And so that's going to fall ultimately on Allegri, Sarri, and Pirlo, but never on Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's the thing that if they didn't have Champions League aspirations, I think that this job that he's doing right now would be considerably good enough. Even if they finish second in the league, even if they don't win the cup, even if Juventus, doesn't win anything.
Yeah.
Number one, if they had a better style, which is the thing that bothers me with him, he's a midfield legend, one of the best to ever do it. And that's where they're suffering right now. They're not creating chances.
Right. I don't understand why McKinney isn't starting every game. Yeah. We can be the American guys on this thing, but he is the best midfielder at Juventus. Bentancur is probably a little better, but him and Bentancur are the two best midfielders at Juventus, and it's not close. Who would you say the third is? I mean, you could say Aaron Ramsey. If you look at, and I like Aaron Ramsey, but all the other options that they have at this position, Arthur, he's been a disaster at Juventus. This has been this is one of the worst deals I've ever seen them pull off. It's bad for both sides as it's turning out, but he should understand it is Dybala is I don't even want to call him a forward. He's an attacking midfielder who pushes forward, and he's not being able to use him in the right way. And the problem is you don't have a complete striker next to Ronaldo. And when we had you on the other show, my other podcast a few months ago, we talked about this. This is why Dzeko was going to be a perfect scenario for Juventus and obviously that's not happening now. Sorry, Juventus, you missed that bolt. And I know they have Morata. Morata's been fantastic, but Morata's not I wouldn't call him a complete striker. He's more of like a goal poacher, and he's an excellent goal poacher. He's very effective. He can use it through the air with his head. He can strike, but he's not a link up play. I'm going to distribute kind of striker. If you had put, and this is the way I would have done it. I would have put Dzeko up. I would put Dzeko up front, Ronaldo to the side, and Dybala to the side. Yeah. Dzeko, when he's in a central position, when he's the number one person up front, then that's when his passing is the most effective. So if you put him that, Dzeko would drop back, he would control the ball, he would distribute to side, and not to talk about Rome again, but if you look at the game against Young Boys, and it is Young Boys, I'm not saying it's the world's best team. He took the ball from midfield, hit a perfect deep through ball to the wing. I think it was, I don't remember who was on that side, but somebody was on that side. And then Dzeko makes the run inside, retrieves the ball that he just distributed, and then hits it with his foot into the bottom corner. And when you watch that, it's that's exactly what Juventus need. They need somebody who does everything, not just link up play, not just distribute this, distribute that, but someone who does everything when it comes to that. And that would release Dybala in a more explosive way. Ronaldo would be better. He would not have as many goals, but he would be better. And it's just I feel like the transfer market was complicated for everybody, but they really missed their shot to win the Champions League. Let's say this. If Dzeko signed, do you think they would have a better chance of winning the Champions League than they do now?
Of course, without a doubt.
And I'm not saying they would have won the league with Dzeko. They would have been in the top two, for sure, no questions asked. And they would be one of the favorites for the Champions League. And the board, first of all, Ronaldo was ridiculous in terms of coming to Juventus for the idea of winning the Champions League. When you look, when he came to Juventus, you look at what's around him. I don't understand. I understand why he came here, wanted to win the Champions League, wanted to move on. But if you look at that team, why would anyone think that's a team capable of winning the Champions League? The year before, if the year Ronaldo here is this year, the year before that, the year before he got there was a better year than any 3 seasons that was Ronaldo. And Ronaldo's been absolutely outstanding this season. But it's just there's so many things wrong with this situation, and it's just a simple concept of what they should have done and what they ended up doing. This is going to sound crazy. I would have gone for Luciano Spalletti for Juve coach. I know there are some contractual issues with Inter Milan, but if that could get resolved, you put him there, and you can make all the jokes about who you want about him not doing well with Cardi and that whole situation, but I don't want to go there. But he's played with Dzeko, and then you sign Dzeko. So if Dzeko had his best ever season under Spalletti. And you look at so many other players who've had the same thing, but you bring that operation in, I feel like it's a much more effective thing because Luciano Spalletti has been to 2 Champions League quarterfinals with Roma. He's won outside of Italy.
And a semifinal?
Was them. That was the 2 Man United quarterfinals for Roma. It was 07-08.
Oh.
So the year that Roma won back-to-back Coppa Italia, beating Inter, I think both times. Mm-hmm. And so they got crushed by Man United both times, but we don't need to talk about that part of it. But then he goes to Inter, and he takes them to the Champions League again. You can say that they got better under Conte, which is true, but he got them to the Champions League. Before he got there, they weren't making Champions League. He made Champions League both of his years there. Even in the controversial season, he still made the Champions League with the Cardi when Cardi wasn't swinging the goals like he usually does. So you add that, you add Dzeko, you have a solution. But it's just like it frustrates me because look, I don't need Juventus to be good. They've been good long enough. I'm fine with them being rubbish. But it frustrates me as just a football purist because it's such a simple concept. They did not see the light. And maybe Spalletti's not the choice for everybody, but you could have got someone else who could have done a similar job instead of giving to someone who, frankly, I don't know what he's doing. Because if you watch Pirlo on the sidelines, sometimes you forget he's even there. And that's the issue I have with him as a manager. He's not making you watch any Atalanta game, you know where Gasperini is. You watch a Roma game, you know where Fonseca is. You watch Inter, of course, you know where Conte is. So you look at all those things, and he seems to just be sitting on the sideline and watching a football match like the rest of us. And they're just in a really bad situation. So it's hard for me to really put my finger on it, but it's something that could have been totally avoided.
Do you think that ultimately because Juventus are in some sort of financial, I guess, difficult situation.
Yeah.
Do you think that this could be the end of Juventus's reign on the Serie A title?
They're not winning this year. They would have to upgrade massively if they want to win it next year. Look, this is the thing about Inter. Inter, they're hit and miss. They're in second place, and they're playing like crap. If Lukaku stays there, Martinez stays there, if they just sort out their midfield, they can win the next 3. I'm not a big fan of Conte as a manager. Personally, I think they can do better. But what if they win this title and Conte leaves and then they get Allegri? And then they sign a midfielder that can help them. I know everyone talks about Pogba to Juventus back. I don't see it happening. What if Inter went for Pogba and you put him next to Barella, who are both defensive, and then you can go get an attacking midfielder, or maybe another forward like Marcus Thuram, who plays for Gladbach, and then Inter are just a piece away, and that's the scary thing. They're playing badly, but no one's looking at Inter and saying they're rubbish. We're looking at Juventus and saying they're terrible. And then you look at Napoli; they're just one signing away from being an absolutely incredible team.
And what signing would that be?
What's that?
What signing would that be for our viewers?
That's a good one. This is going to sound crazy. I like Martinez from Inter at Napoli. I think that fits.
Yeah, that works.
Because you could drop back because they can play on the wing, then you can put him in the center. That won't work. The thing for me is with Napoli is you keep Fabian Ruiz, and then you get, and again, they won't get a player like this, but you either go for Aouar from Lyon. You can go for, to be honest, the perfect match would be Leon Goretzka from Bayern, but I don't think anybody's getting his hands on him because this season he's been a top 10 player in the world. So I would try to get Aouar. If you can't get Aouar, I would get an attacking midfielder from Gladbach, Neuhaus. You know what I'm talking about? Florian Neuhaus.
Not really, but there's a lot of great options out there.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name, but he's an attacking midfielder who plays for Gladbach. A lot of an attacking role, sometimes in the center midfield. I could just be, I forgot his name. I know his name, I just can't pronounce it. But again, Napoli's good in a good position right now. I like their coach. I think he's grown after the AC Milan thing. Then you got Milan. Milan, look, if they sign the Hungarian kid from Salzburg, they're on their way. Because I love Kessie. You put him next to Kessie, fireworks. Then you look at Roma. Imagine if Roma could get like Castrovilli or Rodrigo de Paul, and then bring in like an El Shaarawy or something like that. They'll be right there too. The problem is with Juventus, you need like three or four signings to really take you there. Because Pogba's not going to be enough. That can help you a little bit, but it's not going to be enough. I like Pogba to enter better. I think that fits better with Barella, especially Barella leaves. If they win the title, I can assume he's not going to Liverpool, but because I think Liverpool should go out to Barella, but that's a whole other issue. But you sign Pogba, and then you can add. I don't like the wings that they have. If they could go get a wing from somebody, that's good too. And then you keep going down the list of teams. Verona, I think, are still going to be in the mix. I would say right now, Hellas Verona is better than Juventus, and they don't have any of the star players. So I just feel like this whole thing is a mess. You have to me the best defender in the world at Juventus. Okay.
Yeah.
I look. I've been saying this for a while. I think he's better than Van Dijk. I think he's better than Van Dijk by about this much, but not by a lot. But they have the best defender in the world. So you have the future backbone of Juventus already in place. And then you have Ronaldo, who's 35 years of age. And then you have Dybala, who you're not using correctly. Kulusevski and De Ligt are like the only two constant pieces I see staying in place past maybe in the next 2 years, they'll be the only two remaining pieces that are regularly featured. Oh, McKinney too. If McKinney stays and all that stuff, those three are the cornerstones. And then you have Ronaldo, who's fading. You have Dybala, who's treated like he's I don't know, Adam Adebayor. That's how he's treated at Juventus. He's not treated like he should be, like the reputation he's grown. So I don't know, man. I don't know what you think, but I think it's just a disaster waiting to happen. And Barcelona was equally bad though, so it's hard to say what happens in that game.
But do you think that the media will hype it up to be this amazing match, and it'll probably end like 0-0?
Go ahead.
Or it could be like a disaster class for both teams and really exciting, disgustingly high-scoring game. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
To be honest, I think it's going to be 1-1, but it's going to be like a crazy 1-1 where, like, everybody misses chances.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking a couple sitters on each side. Morata will probably score 6 goals. 5 of them will be called offsides. It's crazy.
I've seen that meme where it's like Morata once caught media attention because he scored 22 goals. The match ended 0-0.
No, I think Morata's a key though. Juventus fans calling him Mr. Champions League. Just take a day off, okay? I don't want to hear that, but yeah, Juventus. I think Juventus are in a situation right now where that is their best chance to win. Because Barcelona is terrible, but again, and I want to talk about this a little bit. Not this weekend, but the weekend before. Last weekend, Griezmann's performance against Osasuna, that was Atletico Madrid Griezmann. We haven't seen that guy since he made that move to Barcelona. So if he can show up like that in the Champions League, then I give the edge to Barcelona. But I don't know. There's just not. I think there's a big hype around it because it's Messi and Ronaldo. But it isn't what it's being. It's not a box office attraction.
Yeah.
I think Shakhtar Inter and Gladbach Real Madrid, both of those matches are more enticing to me, because the state of the group is at at that point where you don't know who's going through. And there's other games that are easily more interesting. The only reason people are talking about it is because of the storyline Messi and Ronaldo, and when they both turn up and both don't underperform, I think people are going to wish they watched some of the other games, because I just don't. I'll watch it obviously, but I just don't see this game as being one of those where it's amazing. It's just it's two bad teams with two aging stars, and I love Messi and Ronaldo, but to say they're not aging is riddle. It's just not factual.
Messi sometimes looks fade, and how could I say such a thing when I'm always campaigning for him? But
I mean, let's be honest here. At this point, and I'm not taking the crown off his head yet. At this point, Neymar is the best player in the world. If he's still playing like this in January and Messi and Ronaldo playing like they're still playing, then it's over. I hate to say it. You get what I'm saying, though?
That will be the case. Messi and Ronaldo, I feel like, look, the media has been pushing it for years that they're finished, that they're done.
And then they had like another four seasons.
Above a hat trick, exactly. Or, even better, like they'll go on to dominate for longer. But this is the first time where genuinely their results aren't masquerading their individual failures. They've lost pace, and their leagues are not competing in the Champions League. What I mean by this is, like Spain, for example, here we go, is relative in the Champions League for the fact that if Barcelona don't win it, Real Madrid win it, or Athletic Madrid win the final. But none of those two teams are going to make.
Or if none of those teams win, the Sevilla wins the Europa League,
or something like that. Even there, but there hasn't been an Italian team in the final since Juventus 2017, or Spain since 2018, I believe. And so the lack of their appearance in big tournaments is ultimately making their performance in the leagues of those countries irrelevant. Whereas let's say Messi was tearing it up in a Premier League and Liverpool were winning the Champions League or Man City were winning it, and by any chance Messi wasn't winning it. Whatever scenario that may be. You could still say he's in a team in a league that competes for Champions Leagues. Here, Barcelona are in 7th place, I think. That was actually in the morning. They're probably 8th, 9th, 10th. So what would Messi do in a harder league or in a Champions League contending league? That's the speculation and the narrative going around Barcelona and Juventus.
Yeah.
Because if Juventus can't even win the Serie A, which is not an easy tournament, or not an easy league in the first place.
There's a big misconception. But here's let me just reply really quick to that. Serious question.
Mm-hmm.
In the last, let's say the last 12 months, or let's not go 12, let's go 8. In the last 6, 8 months, are Messi and Ronaldo in the top 5?
Messi, no.
And Ronaldo's not. So
Ronaldo
if you just think about it, this season, Thomas Muller, clearly, you have Lewandowski, you got Neymar, and then you can go pretty much anybody, any of the Liverpool front three. Then you can go Mbappe, you can go Felix, you can go Haaland. If you start naming players, you'll realize that Messi and Ronaldo are closer to like 12, 13 than they are to 5. And it sucks because we grew up with these guys and we want them to continue to operate and be robots and be able to perform. And it's just the fact is they are fading. And when I brought this up 3 years ago, people laughed in my face. But it's just I think the business. This is the thing that I think you and me understand, but most people struggle with. They use stat to sort of pamper their argument with why they're not fading. But stats, the stats that matter don't show up on the score sheet. If you were just gonna sit look, Mario Pasalic, who plays for you, I'm talking about now this season's not been good for anybody in Bergamo other than Zapata and Gomez, but. If you look at last season, he was a top 8 player in the whole league. He had like 6 goals, maybe. You know what I mean? So if you look at the situations where Thiago has been fantastic for a decade, he never has like gaudy stats. Then you look at some of the Madrid guys. You have Toni Kroos, who basically had games for the last decade where he passed a passing accuracy of 97%. But he's got 2 goals a year. And I think a lot of people think that because they're scoring goals, that makes them great. And you look at Ronaldo, there's a lot of penalties being taken. There's a lot of penalties saying on Messi. And I'm not saying penalties don't count, but if you subtract the penalties that are being scored, he had an okay season last year. I think it's something like 19 goals for Ronaldo. So think about this, right? If you minus everything, and I don't know the math up top of my head because I don't know the exact numbers, but Ronaldo's about 19 goals without penalties. You know who else had 19 goals last year? Edin Dzeko.
Ooh, so, I was just for Mobile.
Oh, yeah, but Mobile was a little higher. But and I've explained this before. The difference with Immobile and Ronaldo last year, Immobile created everything for Lazio as well. And again, I don't like to be making compliments to Lazio players, but I think the whatever they call them, penalty Immobile or whatever, I think it's a little blown out of proportion. It means more because of the way he played. Ronaldo's penalties, he wasn't being as creative in the other aspects, which is why I gave Immobile kind of a pass for so many penalties. This year he's been a little not as good because of the penalties. But if you just look at it, a guy like Dzeko, who's nowhere near the top 10 in the world, and Ronaldo is way better than him. And I'm not saying that Dzeko is Ronaldo level, but they rounded up at around the same amount of goals without penalties. Dzeko took no penalties, got 19. Ronaldo took like 14, 15 penalties and ended up at like 22 or something. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's sad because we want these guys to be, because you saw me a few weeks ago. I was pounding my chest for Ronaldo's performance against Cagliari. But the thing is, it just, you can't just ignore what's happening. And neither one of those guys are at this point. Like, again, Messi still had it last year. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt only because we just need to see a bigger sample size of what's happening. But Neymar basically has at least one hand on his crown already, in my opinion. And I think soon, as sad as it may be, in the next year and a half, we may live in a world where Messi and Ronaldo are not in the top 10. Because you look at everybody else, look at KDB, you look at a lot of the other players. I'll always say Papu Gomez because he's very underrated. You look at Thomas Muller. You look at Lukaku even. Like right now, would you rather have Lukaku or Ronaldo? I'd rather have Lukaku. That sounds crazy, but just stuff like that. It's just
as an investment, of course.
Yeah, of course.
For marketing.
Well, Ronaldo obviously has those big moments that maybe Lukaku doesn't have to the same level, but like Lukaku's basically the only reason Inter are still in the Champions is because of Lukaku. That first goal against Gladbach where he had the guy on his shirt and he shoved him and just hit the ball in the bottom corner. Again, by the way, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So I just feel like they're fading, and it's sad because every time I watch Ronaldo, I remember Ronaldo at Real Madrid where he's sending rockets into the top corner. And then whenever I watch Messi, I remember the times where he just took the ball from midfield, made 10 people fall over and score a goal for Manuel Neuer. So I don't know. We're just in a weird time at this point.
And speaking of Gladbach, when you mentioned Inter, speaking of Inter, actually, I'll scratch that. They could either finish second in the group or bottom.
I think they'll finish second.
They have to be Shakhtar, though. And the thing is, they dominated when they drew 0-0. I don't understand what people are talking about when they say that, like, that Shakhtar is going to win the group. They are going to go through, I think. Shakhtar, I think. I don't know. Either way, they've overperformed from my expectations, and definitely overperformed their
I have a hot take for you. Shakhtar Donetsk will win the Europa League. They'll finish third, and then they'll win the Europa League.
They have the capability. If they're in the Europa League, they have contention because Manchester United.
I mean, the main contenders is probably Arsenal, Roma. Who else is in there?
Anyone from the group of death of PSGs.
Yeah. So it's basically it's Arsenal, Roma, and the field. Like teams that are actually in the Europa League, those are the two.
Okay.
Maybe I don't think there's another one. Bayer Leverkusen, maybe. That's a third one.
I love Leverkusen. They're my favorite German team, but they don't have the consistency to do it. And last year, it really showed when they had Havertz. This season was shit.
You know what they need?
It's not enough.
Julian Draxler.
Yeah, German teams. There's a lot of teams that could use his services.
Because I feel like when you look at the play, because they have Dost, they have Andre Silva, who, by the way, is just absolutely smashing it. Nobody's talking about it, but absolutely smashing it. Sorry. Not Leverkusen, Frankfurt. I got confused. But they need someone like that. But anyway, I think scratch that. They need somebody like that, though. That's my point. I like Alario. I think he's really, really good. That nobody knows that he's good, but he is. Yes. And then I like the wings that they have with Leon Bailey and Diaby. They miss something, but I feel like outside of Roma and and Arsenal. That's probably the second tier challenger.
There's no Sevilla. You make a good point. There will be no Sevilla.
Yeah.
Villarreal, I don't know if they're
Real Sociedad maybe.
Yeah.
I suppose you could say Napoli, but I think they're gonna try to kill themselves for the top four.
Yeah, it's either or for
So
teams.
I'd
like
say
that.
okay. Let's put it this way: contenders at this point, just in Europa League. Let's say Napoli. Napoli, Roma, Arsenal, and Real Sociedad maybe. I think those are the four because I really think Real Sociedad could go deep. The rest, I think, it's for a moot point. You could throw in maybe Bayer Leverkusen if they keep it running, but I just don't think they have enough. But the scary thing about Shakhtar is when they get on the counter, what are you gonna do? Because they're so quick, so athletic, and they play that sort of I'm gonna go get it sort of style. So you scored against, or it's like you can beat us, but you'll have to outscore us, and that's the way I think they play. And again, they can't get away with that against Gladbach because Gladbach is good from back to front, and has one of the best goalkeepers. But against other teams, they'll be able to do that with more set. But personally, I think Inter gets second because. James, do I have this right? If Gladbach get a draw with Real Madrid and Inter win, then Inter would be in second, right?
If Inter win, they're through. Only if Gladbach, I believe, don't win. If Gladbach draw and Inter win, I still think that Shakhtar would go ahead.
But how would Inter get second? Just by being Shakhtar?
It's funny.
Hold on, I gotta check I just got to make sure because I think there's
If Inter have to win number one, they cannot dream of anything else if they don't win because numerically speaking, everyone in this group, it's insane, has the potential to win the group. It's insane. But mathematically speaking, I think it's going to be 1-1 Real Madrid versus Mönchengladbach. They're out.
Yeah, because if Inter win, they get 8 points. Shakhtar's at 7.
Real Madrid's at 7, correct?
What?
Real Madrid's also at 7, correct?
So Gladbach has an 8. Shakhtar and Real Madrid have 7, and Inter has 5. So if Inter beat Shakhtar, they'll go up to 8. So if Inter, so let's put it this way: if Inter win, and Shakhtar, if Inter win and Gladbach win, then they'll go through. It'll be Gladbach, Inter, and then it would be Shakhtar, and then it'd be Real Madrid after that. If Inter win and the Gladbach and Real Madrid get a draw, then Inter would finish third. If I'm reading this correctly.
I think Inter have all the potential to do it because they're at home. They should have beaten Shakhtar in the first game that they played.
Yeah, the goalkeeping display from Shakhtar is a big reason they weren't able to pull it off. And then the chance that Martinez missed.
Mm-hmm. But we don't know which Inter will show up. And Shakhtar are pretty decent away. But speaking of Shakhtar, they lost 6-0 to this Borussia Mönchengladbach side. They're the one that deserved to go through. When they were beating Madrid 2-0, I genuinely thought, like, if Real Madrid are sent to the Europa League, it's embarrassing. But they're not getting sent by luck. These are good goals. Especially the first one by Lilian Thuram's son, Marcus Thuram.
Yeah.
Which, whatever happens now, Borussia Mönchengladbach, they pat themselves on the back because they just showed the world what they're capable of in the Europa League, or maybe even in the latter stages of the Champions League.
I think they can make the quarterfinals.
Yeah, easily. I was thinking they draw Manchester United.
The problem with Shakhtar is you can't. And this is down to the manager. I'm not blaming the manager for not beating Gladbach, but you can't play their style against Gladbach because they'll crush you for it.
Yeah.
Because they have that. I don't know how you explain it. They have like manipulative. I can't say this for you. Manipulative midfield. What I mean by that is they can hit you. They all can go in defensive shape. They can cut you off. So they basically can cut off a side of the field if they choose, because their midfielders have defensive capabilities along with attacking capabilities. And then on the other hand, they play the offside trap perfectly. So there's a team can fit. They can not from a defensive perspective, but from a movement perspective. When you're making those runs, the goal against Inter the Hoffman goal, where he snuck in right before the line and then went for a little sorry, not a run, but he timed it so perfectly where he would be onside by a second. And then he goes on one-on-one and scores. Again, and that was in the first Inter game. In the second Inter game, does the same thing. Alexis Sanchez kind of provoked that, but they get that one-on-one and they score. So it's just like they're designed to be the team that counterattacks. That's why any team that has the counterattacking mentality, and that's something they do well, Gladbach can sort of can avoid that situation based on the way they play. And it's just like it's one of those games where you can basically play into their hands without trying to. And that's why Shakhtar struggles, because they try to hit them on the break, but you can't hit a team like that on the break because they're too smart. You can hit, all due respect, you can hit Real Madrid on the break because they don't play like that. And then after that first goal's in, Real Madrid try to do too much. They come back, they hit them again. And that's how you do it. And they just couldn't do that against Gladbach because Gladbach are smart and they're efficient, they're well coached, and they have one of the best goalkeepers. So when you put all these things together, it's just like, wow. You know what I mean? So I have a feeling that Gladbach will do enough to beat Real Madrid. I think they'll win that game. I'm going to say 1-0. They'll get an early goal. So this is what I think is going to happen. Just guessing. I think it's going to be the one who scored all the goals in the other game. Alexander Plea, I think he'll get a goal. Probably set up by either Marcus Thuram or the other on the wing. He'll probably get a goal, and I'm going to say in the first 20, 25 minutes. And then then Gladbach will put their attacking midfielders in a sort of forward position, and they'll drop their midfielders that have that defensive specialty and drop them back. So they can basically use that as being a scissors to the attack. So when they come forward and when Real Madrid tries to get that the points and trying to do too much, they'll be suffocated by Dennis what's his name, Zarakia. Yeah, and then Hoffman, right? So those guys can cut you off while you can push forward. Thurman, Neuhaus.
Yeah, that was the one I was missing. Florian Neuhaus.
Stin, I forgot his name. I'm sorry, the German names are hard. And then you have Alexander Plea. You can push those guys forwards. You can take the two defensive midfielders and kind of put them in a way where it makes Real Madrid, it basically collapses them when they're trying to orchestrate something. And then when you take that, then you can push the other two. But you're keeping the two defensive-minded midfielders in the back, so Real Madrid can't break on them. So if Real Madrid scores, we're going to have to do it like in a creative way, not in a counterattack, because I think they'll suffocate you on the counterattack, and that's going to be the difference in that game. So that's why they'll win that. And Inter, look, they have Lukaku. They'll be at home. They'll find a way, and that's sort of what I feel about with that game. But it's going to be a fight to the finish. I'm really excited about that one.
The team that surprises me the most of this group is Inter, because I always believed in them. But the one time where I thought they're not going to be able to do it, they go and beat the group leaders, Borussia Mönchengladbach, away. I believe away at least, which blows my mind. It's like, why does Inter not turn up when they need to? Also, yes, Real Madrid totally outclassed Inter when Vidal got sent off and they got the 2-0 win in the groups. Sorry, I think that was last week or 2 weeks ago.
No, it was last week. No, 2 weeks ago. And that's stupid. Vidal, Inter didn't lose that game. Vidal lost that game.
Yeah, I was going to say, the second goal from Rodrigo was in no relation to the quality of the goal.
You can't save it. You can't save it. That was my issue with the problem is once that happened, they collapsed. And this is the thing. Barella is their best, in my opinion. Lukaku is their best player.
Yeah.
Barella is their most important player in the midfield. He basically, it was a bad game. He caused the penalty in a doing something stupid. And then on top of that, Vidal gets sent off. So now Barella's by himself in the midfield as their only really creator while trying to be defensive. And that's why the whole thing collapsed. Real Madrid dominated. And then obviously the Rodrigo goal pretty much sets it apart. But it's just like, and I talk about this with Danielle a lot. It's the mental issue.
Yeah.
Inter defeat themselves by not having that mentality to go after. It's like once they concede, they don't feel – and I know they came back against Torino a few weeks ago, but they just don't have that mentality, that movement about it. And it's just like you can't mentally defeat yourself. It's like there are teams where once if you concede first, as a fan, you start to panic. Like Roma, not last year, but the year before that. It's like once someone else scored, we were scared. It's just like a scary factor. And I think Inter just struggle with the mental capacity, and they've been better since, but I think that was a huge one. And this turned out to be the group of death. I didn't think it was going to be, but it ended up being exactly that.
Between Manchester United
Yeah.
and Real Madrid's group, which one shocked you the most?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like, which one took you by surprise with the fact that how it turned out, like how competitive it was?
Oh, Man United. I think they're terrible. I think they're a bad team. I genuinely think they're a bad team. Now, I'm not trying to be mean here. I like Rashford. And then I had to think. I like Bruno a little bit. I like Bruno. I like Van Beek. I like Cavani. I don't like anybody else. I don't think Greenwood. Look, this might be a hot topic. I don't think Mason Greenwood is special at all. I think he's a one-trick pony. If he's not scoring goals, he's basically not doing anything effective. So I was so surprised that Man United, obviously, we're doing so well. Real Madrid, I thought they'd be better, but am I overly shocked that they're not doing well? No, because I never rated Zidane as a manager, and that's partly why I think it's always possible for a Zidane-led team to collapse, because I just don't think he has that special stuff. He's crowned as one of these best managers in the world, and I just don't think he has that it factor. And Man United more surprising, because I think Real Madrid is a decent team. I think Man United is a bad team, and that's the big difference, because I thought they would be lucky to get. I picked them to finish last. I thought Istanbul Basir was going to finish third because they had Edin Visca, and in my opinion, going into this tournament, I thought he is the best, arguably, between Man United and Istanbul. He is the best player. He doesn't have the praise or acclaim because he plays in Turkey, but he's one of the best players outside of the top couple of leagues. And they beat Istanbul, beat Man United one of these times, and he was the reason why. So I'm much more surprised at Man United, because I don't think they're very good.
And one last point. Who's going to win Serie A? My heart says Milan, and it could be either or. I genuinely respect Inter more than I do. Like, in that rivalry of Serie A, I respect Inter more than I respect Barcelona as a Real Madrid fan / AC Milan fan. But if Inter win the league, I wouldn't be shocked, especially with how bad Juventus are. Like, the door to the top of the league has been left wide open by Juventus. They're not going to win it, in my opinion. It would have to be ridiculously.
No, there's no way they're winning it. They're not going to even be in the top three. They might not even make the top four. I'm not kidding when I say this. Just hear me out. Sassuolo's going to collapse this week against Roma, and then they'll kind of go back to where they are, 8th, 7th, that sort of team. I mean, I think it will be, in no particular order, it'll be the two Milan teams, it'll be Roma and Napoli. Job done. That's the four. Maybe Juventus takes one of those out, but those are the four. I think Inter are going to win it now. And I know that I totally changed my tune on this, but look, if Inter win, they will have won the league with the worst midfield of any Serie A winner. But if they can get Hakimi going the way they have in this game this week, and Lukaku, Martinez got someone going, and then they have a little bit of energy defensively, improve a little bit there, then I think they should win it, because I like Milan. I think they have Francas, he's excellent. Benacer is excellent. I really like Zlatan's obviously really important. But if Hakimi can look like Dortmund Hakimi or Dortmund Hakimi from last year, if he can maintain that pace, then I think it's quite possible that Inter can win it. At this point, I'm going to say Inter, but it's so close this year. It's like, it's this week it's Inter, next week is Napoli, 3 weeks from now it'll be Roma, and then next week after that it'll be AC Milan, and then it's gonna I have no idea, to be honest. But Inter, and if AC Milan has has a gap, but that gap will close because they're gonna cool off at some point. And Inter are starting to heat up. It seems like so. At this point, I'll say Inter, but who knows? It's really wide open. In England, it's basically between Spurs and Liverpool. Those are two team race. In Germany, as much as I love Germany, it's really between RB Leipzig and Bayern, and maybe you can throw Dortmund in, but they lost today.
No, I don't think Dortmund. Especially, I mean, Haaland's absence is temporary, but
it's by the time he gets back, it'll be too late.
yeah, I have no faith in Dortmund, none whatsoever.
Yeah, me
I
either.
never trust them. They've bluffed too many times. Great
Look,
players.
they make mistakes in the market too. They needed another striker. I would have gone and got the one at Ajax, Tadic, as a depth piece to go with Haaland. I think that's perfect. They never should have got rid of Pablo Acer or whatever his name is. He was perfect. You know what I'm talking about? He plays for like Villarreal now or something like that, or Valencia.
He hasn't caught my.
He's
my
Spanish.
memory, yeah, I should know.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Alcacer?
Yeah. Sorry.
Paco. Oh, you got me. Paco Alcacer. Yeah, he was a good player.
And then they had they just don't. You can't just rely on one dude to score all the goals. So I would have brought in another piece, someone like that. But it's too late now. They're done. So it's RB Leipzig is Bayern. That's it. And then in France, it's PSG and PSG.
Only PSG.
In Spain, it's Atletico Madrid and Real Sociedad. I actually think
they might have a conflict of interest.
What is that?
So, meaning Sociedad might want to perform in the Europa League. If they fall away in the league, they might just prioritize Europa.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is those are the teams that are really involved in a title.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe you can throw Real Madrid in there, but I'm not going to. There's probably some other teams you can maybe throw in there. In Italy, literally, teams that could win the league: Roma, Napoli, Inter, AC Milan, and at two out of the what is it called? At very low odds, Juventus. So maybe 5 teams, probably 4. So that's why this question, it's so hard to answer because what are you gonna do? I mean, there's just so many teams that are involved. If you look at all the rest of the leagues, there is not 4 teams in a title race anywhere else. Italy is the most open race there is, and this week it's AC Milan. Or sorry, this week it's Inter. If you ask me next week, it could be a different team. That's how open it is. So I would say it's going to be one of the Milan teams. I'm pretty confident in saying that because I don't think Roma can maintain the pace that they've been on the whole season. I think Napoli is missing that one piece. Juventus isn't very good, and so it's going to be between those two. And I'm excited to see what happens because those two have not been going head-to-head in a title race in quite some time, and now they're first and second, and it's going to come down to the derbies. And I think those are the 2 teams that – so there's 2 teams that I think are going to win it, could win it, but I think there's 4 teams that can win it. Where in the other leagues, there's not 4 teams that can win it. There's 2 practically everywhere. So if you look at England, for example, you can't say that Man City can win. I don't think they can win it. I don't think Leicester can win. So it's – so in Liverpool, there's literally there's like 2 teams that are involved and or can win. So in Italy, there are 4 teams that actually can win the league. There are 2 teams who I think it's really between them. So, but I just want to clarify that's different than saying with Germany and England and Spain that there's 2 teams that are winning it. For them, it's just there's 2 teams that can win it. Period. There's 4 teams in Italy that can win it. There's 2 that I think are the most likely to win it. So that's what I'll say. But this week I'll say Inter Milan. Ask me next week, it'll probably be a different answer.
For sure. But speaking of next week, these 2 Champions League groups, the one with Real Madrid and the PSG, anything can happen. A penalty, red card. These are playoff games, and we're gonna see it unfold right before our very eyes next week. I can't wait to tune in with those. And you guys watching from home, tune into our podcast next Sunday. We'll have.
Yeah. Also, I want to say something real quick. Mm-hmm. On my other channel, if you're a basketball fan, me, Ryan, James, and a friend of mine, I don't know if my friend's on, my friend Dane, who's a Utah Jazz fan, he hasn't got back to me yet, but it's possible that he'll be on too. We're gonna have an entire NBA preview for the upcoming season. Make sure to listen to that, and we're gonna start getting some more guests on here. We're in negotiations with a few people that might be joining us. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
For sure. And man, I can't wait. Because like football is our love and our passion. But we know basketball too. And I know a little bit of glimpse of other sports here and there.
Yeah.
Especially when a world class player like Rafael Nadal is at the helm of it all. Which each to their own. Just to leave it with that grain of salt. But you guys, it's been a pleasure. We can't wait to catch you guys next week. It's been James and Elliot. Catch you guys.